let's start with the first of those stages, which is visioning. I always like to say that visioning is not just for the reception of a big corporate building. Visioning, although it does happen, right? Visioning is actually not just for Christmas, and not just for a march away day, and not just for kind of once in a while an appraisal. For me, visioning is every single day creating that vision of success and expectations, that vision of what good looks like. And it could be in terms of behavior as much as in terms of a strategy. All of those things that make sure that actually people are really, really clear and explicit about what good looks like around here. So what did Big Bus Tours do? As part of the discussions with the leadership team, as I say, one of the things was the then CEO at the time said, actually, do you know what? I think we could do with a vision. I absolutely agreed with him. And they created a vision. They spent some time and created a vision in consultation with some of the sales teams. And they created a vision. And this is the vision that they created. To be the number one thing to do in every world famous city. To be the number one thing to do in every world famous city. Now, just in the chat, I would like you to just give me, and bear in mind, you know what hop on, hop off bus is, and you've heard that vision to be the number one thing to do. If you worked for Big Bus, just give me a couple of things you might do as a result of hearing that vision. What would you be doing? What sorts of things to be number one if you were in a hop on, hop off bus tour? What sort of thing might you do? Yeah, be friendly. Review competitors to make sure that they were whether they were any better than you. Certainly get some training, which was kind of already in. So yeah, look professional. Raise awareness of the brand. Influence customers to post on Twitter, yeah, for definite. Deliver what's promised. Thank you. Yeah, and and the drivers who were driving the buses, and the people who were cleaning the buses, and the people who were deciding what kind of buses and what kind of colours they should have on the back of the bus on the buses. They really, Steve, yeah, really understand the city and be able to inspire and motivate tourists as they come to experience the city. And 9 years later, in the last few weeks, we have been privileged to help to refresh some of the work that was done 9 years later. And I can tell you now that every single individual who we've worked with, and we've worked with 45 individuals in the last few weeks, every single individual knows this vision and knows how to work towards achieving it. They are mobilized, they are developed, and they are absolutely enabled. I'll tell you some of the things they've done to refresh, because it kind of goes around a bit of a circle. Once you're enabled, you might want to improve. And I'll tell you some of the things that they've done to work towards even further towards that vision. Although I will tell you the results. And despite COVID, despite being absolutely catastrophically hit by COVID, being a tourist industry in cities. They are now 28 cities in the world, and they are the number one thing to do in 18 of those. And they got a little bit of work in some of the new ones, but actually it's been a massive success. And yeah, that's the value of a really clear vision that everybody can get hold of. The importance of purpose, the importance of having clarity in what we're trying to achieve. And really often we find that your experience, please do share in the chat, that if we're not clear on what the vision is, it's difficult to be great, you know? It's difficult to be great because we don't really know what we do, and we tend to get on with our day jobs and actually could be so much better by sharing that purpose. So I'm going to hand over now to Steve Jenkins. Steve Jenkins I met when he was at Bird's Eye Foods, and he was there for a very long time, and he's very recently become the Client Leadership Director for the IGD. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Thank you, Steve. And to tell us a story about how you, Steve, how you created vision and clarity in one of your businesses. Steve.
Thanks so much, Amanda. I hope you can all hear me. Just on that, I've just actually was on the big bus tour in Rome last weekend as well. Yeah, so
what was it like?
I went on to it was great. And the reason why I went to the big bus tour is because it wasn't a hard sell of a leaflet thrown down your throat, to be fair. So it was a little bit different. And that's why we decided to go on the big bus tour in Rome and not just with other competitors. But on to myself. Yeah, so feed that one back, Amanda. That's the direct feedback from Rome. To myself, yes, I'm Steve Jenkins. I'm currently head of client leadership at the IGD, but I've only been there for 2 weeks. Prior to that, I spent over 10 years at Birdseye, which is part of Nomad Foods Europe, and that's where I'm going to be telling a story in terms of my leadership there. So I was business unit director across a number of grocery customers, and my story is going to come from probably about 6 or 7 years ago now, when I was actually appointed as Tesco Account Director, and how we reshaped our business within Tesco. So I got appointed to the role of Tesco Account Director, which actually really sounds really great. You've got a really good promotion, Steve. Here's how it works for you. You're doing really well in your career. However, I would caveat that with the Advantage Survey's report, just for everyone on the call, that retailers fill in about their suppliers in a certain category, a certain area in the store that they work in. So Birdseye at that time are voted 12 out of 12. So the worst supplier that was dealing with Tesco within the frozen industry was Birdseye. We'd just had 6 years of year-on-year decline. We'd had really low engagement with the buy-in and the Tesco team. We had no success within new product development. Even the size of Tesco, it wasn't even Nomad's biggest customer. That was overtaken by Asda. And actually, we had no trust in the Tesco team, but probably more challenging was we had no trust for the Tesco team. So it was a real internal sell that we had to make as well. So that's the job I got offered. And yes, I did accept it. But before we could start building our vision in terms of turning this business and how do we move it around, we really need to be clear on the current reality. What actually was happening, what was driving those 4 or 5 points that I referenced to higher. So what did? We actually asked Tesco. I went into Tesco and said what was good, what was bad, what do we need changing? And then the final question I left them with was, knowing that I also had business targets to hit, what would they do if they had my job? I was in there for over 2.5 hours. What I then did with this information we could work through was what we needed to do to turn around our performance within Tesco. So what I did on the back of that is, as a team, not me, it wasn't my decision, it wasn't my vision. We brought that information back and we started to work together as a team. This is important to bring the team with you and really live it. So we've created a vision to actually deliver growth through becoming or being Tesco's trusted frozen partner. So that's how we really wanted to be. So we lost a lot of trust in Tesco for different reasons. But we then went through our values. What do we really want to be seen internally and externally in Tesco? So the values we wanted was honesty, trust, respect, commitment. We wanted to be knowledgeable about both ourselves and Tesco. And we also, as a team, wanted to be accountable both internally and externally. So the strategy, the internal sell, was as much about that as the external one. So we could really challenge the status quo. We had to build a bigger contact strategy within Tesco. We always had to be visible. We wanted to be cross-functional. We wanted to understand the Tesco business and strategy in greater depth. Actually, what really was it that made them tick? What was really important to them? And also, we wanted our brand to be heard and identify the role that that brand could have been playing for Tesco. So we set ourselves putting ourselves some objectives within our team. And one of them was around buyer engagement and trust. We wanted to make every minute count that we had with our buyers. We really wanted to understand what our buyers were like. One of my buyers, had him for about 18 months to 20 months, hated PowerPoint. So I had to work through a whole strategy with him and talking without the use of PowerPoint for about 18 months. Try it, it's brilliant. It really engages the mind to really drive that forward as well. So I recommend that. We had to talk about promotional feature space and talk in the Tesco language. We had to use what products we could work for both our businesses. But most of all, and I think this is what changed the dialogue with Tesco, is about that honesty and trust. We would be proactive on delivering messages, whether that message be good, whether that mesh be bad, whether that mesh be indifferent, of course, different the contact matrices, but would offer solutions to them. And we had to deliver what we said we would do. And that was the biggest opportunity we had there to really deliver in that trust. But how does that move? Oh, somebody question? No. And then we put everyone expectations, everybody within the team, not just my direct team, but my wider team that focused on Tesco. Everyone knew the role and the challenge each other to deliver. So I didn't police it. This was being policed by the team that worked in it because they had a pride in what they wanted to deliver. We made it a real cross-functional effort. So marketing will talk to buyers outside of Tesco, outside of our sales involvement. We'll have supply chain have an open, honest conversations. We'll be open, honest, and deliver the conversation that we needed to do for Tesco to drive that performance. But one of the things we looked at with the team was we had a team of a few people, but where was the key competencies? Who looked after what? What was the individual strengths, and how were people looking to develop their careers? So we understood our individual strengths. We went through a whole phase of going, what was people best at? What were they struggling with? What was their development areas? And we really challenged them on what they could do to utilize that to get the best results. So we put the best person with building that relationship to build a relationship. We did the best person to do the administration, the support work, to do the support work. So we could really build that and develop the confidence to have those confident conversations and be on the front foot and be really feeling about themselves. So how did it achieve? Actually, we moved the dial. These are the results that moved the dial. We moved from number 12 out of 12 to number 3 in the Advantage Group survey ranking. We then continued 6 years of consecutive growth within Tesco. We even lapped COVID as we move forward. We moved Tesco to clear number 1 in Nomad, and not just in the Bird's Eye group, but in the total Nomad group. Tesco became the number 1 customer. We became supply chain champion of the year, and we didn't have the best service record that year. We became supply chain champion. What we did, we gave them the honest conversations and were open, honest, and transparent with Tesco. We launched collaborated new product development, and we involved Tesco in our brand changes to make it move forward. And the best thing of all for myself is we actually won 2 years after taking over Customer Champion of the Year in Tesco. So our Bird's Eye team moved from being 12 out of 12 2 years later to actually leading and becoming Customer Champion of the Year for that frozen category and also the chilled category as well. And that was all set about, from similar to what Amanda's going to take us through now, setting a clear vision, really understanding what we wanted to achieve, be open and honest with each other, and really being accountable and understanding where we needed to achieve and what we wanted to be there, and having the laser focused on that vision and on that mission that we want to achieve.
That's amazing. Thank you. Steve, thank you very much for taking the time to plan that out as well. Because actually, what you've done brilliantly there is gone through all my list over here of things to include in that visioning stage, which is brilliant. And I tell you what, asking your customer, observing and assessing what your customer needs from a vision perspective, so that it can be a joint vision, is such a brilliant piece of advice for people. Tell me, how did you take the people with you? The loads of people in Bird's Eye, but also, a big team of people at Tesco as well. How did that work? Taking the actual people with you.
It was being honest, Amanda. It was showing internally. We had to tell them what Tesco thought of us internally was. They weren't easy conversations to have across the marketing team or anyone else, but it was about how we brought them together. And from a Tesco point of view, it was showing that actually we were interested in their business. I think prior to going on to that, I don't think Tesco felt the love, if I'm being honest. They felt that it was that element, it was Bird's Eye way or no way. We tried to change that status quo. And it's like anything, you get that momentum as you go forward and people want to jump on the journey. So internal was a hard battle. We got through that first stage and we started to build people on the journey. And then 2 or 3 years later, as I've mentioned in the thing, we launched co-collaborated MPD. This is because the marketing team wanted part of them. They wanted part of the pie. They want to be involved in it. And it's like, actually, we now see the benefits of working with you and where we can move it. You can enable us to hit our numbers and our targets with a strong collaborative Tesco on board.
So it actually brought people within Bird's Eye on board with this joint vision with Tesco.
Yes.
They wanted to launch their brands with you and Tesco.
Yeah. And that's what we tried to set out when we set out the vision for it. It was becoming Tesco's honest and trusted branded partner. That was what it was. It was just an internal and external. It was trying to build that relationship back in. that had obviously changed over the time. But yeah, it was good.
Just tell me a bit more about the competencies that you had to change, or the competency you had to kind of build higher to deliver
Yeah.
the vision.
So the competency, what we really went through is understanding what our strengths and weaknesses or development areas were. So it wasn't we're going to go through a whole training mission. We didn't have time to go through a whole training program. But what we did is we took the team on board, and we knew the strengths and development areas of those people. What we then did is we really put the strong people on what they're strong at, and a development plan for those to learn from others. And it was making sure that when we recruited a balanced team. It wasn't getting the same person who was really good. It wasn't getting, if you go back to Insight Colours, it wasn't getting everyone blue red. It was actually, how do we get the people in from the green, yellow, blue, red? So actually we mirrored the whole team to really deliver in what we needed to do. And then we put plans in place for them to build their capability within themselves. So it was a lot of the time it was about confidence to deliver. A lot of the time it was their own structure that they hadn't done. So if I take it from Hayley's point of view, Hayley would have been very good at relationship building. She'd been very good at looking at a problem and solving that problem. Hopefully she's not on the call, so apologies if you are, Hayley. But the admin side of it probably wasn't where her strength was, but her strength was really with focusing with the customer. So we put Hayley in front of the customer. Abdi at the time was more focused on doing admin point of view, and he wasn't as strong being a customer. It wasn't to say we didn't put him in there, but we made sure that Abdi was really strong, so it was a right first time attitude to our admin paperwork, which built that trust and honest respect for Tesco. But we made sure that the development plans incorporated the other areas. So we gave Tesco what they wanted, and we also gave the team what they enjoyed doing, and therefore they gave more passion, more pride, more commitment to the role because they're enjoying what they were doing.
That's brilliant. That's exactly what Big Boss have done as well. It's like when you know what the vision that you're aiming for, then you kind of you slide in and mobilize, which we're going to move on to next. Thank you so much, Steve.
No problems at all. Thank you.
That's fantastic. If anybody's got any questions for Steve, please feel free. Steve's going to stay on, and if you've got any questions, please feel free to share those. I'm going to ask you a little question now before we move on to mobilizing, which is our second stage. If visioning is visioning is the get clear part of this 4-step leadership process, the get clear process. So you can see next to me, there are 6 elements that we've put down around get clear, that visioning section. If you choose to, obviously no obligation, but if you choose to, I'd like you just give yourself a mark out of 6, tick or not tick. Do you think you're really, really clear in your business? And additional question, if you choose to, it'd be useful for us to just have a look at which areas you're thinking you need to work on first, if maybe you're not a 6 out of 6. If maybe you're not a 6 out of 6. And of course, if you prefer not to say, then thank you, John. So 4 out of 6 for John. John works at Mitsubishi Pen Company. Hi, John. We use your marker pens. There's a little plug for you. Thank you very much. A 4, yeah, so some work to do in some of the areas. 3 out of 6, Bertrand, thank you. Oh yeah, Peter, as an interim, that's really interesting. You've got to get up to speed with quite a lot, quite quickly. Absolutely. Yeah, Jonathan. At Uspire, we do talk values all the time, actually. Yeah, and a 4 again, yeah, and Matt, start with values. Brilliant. So hopefully that's given you some food for thought around that get clear element of our 4-step leadership process, and maybe some food for thought about where you might want to think about focusing if you want to get even clearer.